I show 6 o'clock. We ready? All right, let's get going then. This is the Suamico Village Board meeting for Monday, July 21st, 2025. The time is 6 p.m. At this time, I would like to call the meeting to order. Just a reminder, anyone who wishes to speak, please speak directly into the microphone, provide your name and address for the record if you would. At this time, I would look for a motion to approve the evening's agenda.
So motion to approve?
I have a motion from trustee Andrews to approve the evening's agenda, seconded by trustee Romas. Any further discussion or questions with regard to the agenda? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Let's stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Item number 5 this evening is public appearances. This is intended for anyone in the audience who is here to speak to an item not on the agenda. If you are here to speak to an item on the agenda, we will make every effort to give you an opportunity to share what's on your mind. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak to an item not on the agenda? You do get an attendance award. Seeing no one,
I got one. I may as well put it on.
public appearance or,
A member of the public would call me with an issue. Would this be the appropriate time to do that?
I guess it could be, sure.
Yeah, okay. So a resident called me who is concerned about the gravel height on the road on Overlook. So there's the pavement and then the gravel, then there's a drop off, and then there's grass. And his concern was regarding being able to mow, weed whack, stability, things of that nature. So I wanted to pass that on.
Sure, you want to give me his information and I
Yeah.
can reach out to him?
I can give you that now if you want.
I'll just grab it after the meeting.
Okay,
Terrific. Thank you.
you're welcome.
Anything else? Okay. Item number 6. Item number 6 is the consent agenda. That consists of the previous minutes of the village board meeting dated July 7th, 2025. B, June 2025 treasurer's report. Item C, June 2025 fire report. And D, June 2025 rec report. I have one change on here that I would request, which is item 7B, a correction. It was stated there that it was a 7-0 unanimous vote to reopen a public hearing. In fact, it was 6-1. I was the dissenting vote on that to reopen that public hearing. So I would look for that change in this, if possible. And I had one question for our fire chief before we're looking for a motion. So, Chief, interesting, I'm, facts and data numbers guy. So, looking at fire calls up 4% on the year, yet June was 47% up. What happened in June? I mean, 4% over the course of, the first 6 months, and then 47% in just 1 month.
Get to that just 1 second here.
Yeah, I looked at the numbers, so I guess just for my reference.
It was a busy month. We had a few structure fires. There's a few boat calls in there. I'm trying to think what else was. So that was obviously just from June of last year. So if you remember last year, we had a really high spike in January, February, March. I think we kind of talked about that. Then it kind of died down, kind of April, May, June, so it's kind of was the opposite. We had our typical normal winter. So it happens that May, June area, people are going outside, going for walks. We see an uptick usually in calls. So I want to say it was kind of a normal year, but last year was kind of an anomaly of slow calls compared to this year. So typically because we were higher, I think kind of have a discussion about budget and last year about, if we're going to continue this trend, like kind of be worried. But if you remember last year, kind of had some warmer months in February and March and that type of thing. So it slowed down. That's kind of back to norm this year where we see that increase where people are walking outside doing activities, cutting grass, out on the water, so it's typically that average of 50, 60 calls a month. So it's kind of an anomaly from last year, so that's why.
Okay, well, I mean, that makes sense for, from last year to this year. In your planning process, when you're planning year to year, do you utilize a planning time frame of 3 to 5 years? So look at, what were our average calls over 3
Yep,
years?
that's
5?
exactly what we do, yeah.
You do,
Yeah,
okay, great.
yep. We reject usually 5% kind of over year after year, so.
Sure, makes sense. Okay,
Yep. Thank you. Good question, though.
yep, no more questions. Anyone else?
I have a few on the minutes. I guess I'm being nitpicky again. Public appearances, Jerry Vander Steen, that would be EEN, and it would be over Look Court. And, do you see that?
Yep.
Okay. And right at the last one, motion carried 6-1 unanimously.
Oh, whoops.
Otherwise, I'm good.
All right. Anyone else?
Motion to approve
So we have,
consent agenda.
thank you. We have a motion from trustee Eckert to approve the evening's consent agenda. Is there a second? I have a second from trustee Stevens. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Thank you. All right, Public Works items, East Deerfield Avenue resurfacing. Director Smits.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
The village is planning to use TID 1 funds in 2026 to support the construction of Deerfield Court. The portion of East Deerfield Avenue that is south of Woodfield Court motor condos is becoming in pretty rough shape after all the development that we've seen over the years along East Deerfield and with aging pavement. Staff feels it would be a good time to resurface that south portion of East Deerfield as part of the same contract that we are using for the East Deerfield, or for the Deerfield Court project. It would add volume to that project, and usually with volume, you get better pricing in the construction world. The TID 1 expenditure period is closing, and this addition would become part of the contract that we are intending to have signed this year for next year's completion, allowing the TID to fund both of those projects. The current cost estimate for Deerfield Court is about $531,000, of which half is being funded for by the developer that was involved with Deerfield Court. The cost estimate for the additional resurfacing on East Deerfield Ave would be about $337,000. The total project cost, that the TID would be looking to pick up would be about $602,500. If approved, the village staff would finish the design and bid both projects together for the expenditure period of the TID occurring on January 1st, 2026. Construction would be scheduled for 2026 as well. The village's funding would come from TID 1, which will have the available balance to cover the project based on cash flows presented at the Joint Review Board on July 9th. The cash flow statement shows a fund balance of $908,576 at the end of 2026. As of June 30th, the balance of TID 1 had approximately $627,073.
How much of it is not going to be done?
How much of East Deerfield?
Yeah,
It would just be the portion north of where GAD is, roughly where the north end of GAD is. So that was the north end of our limit of.
and we would have funds left? In the TID?
Current, we would expect the TID to close with $908,000.
Because you want to use them.
It wouldn't be closing, but it would be the end of our expenditure period, I should say.
Okay.
So I think we are confident that it has the funds to support it, and if we don't use the TID funds to reconstruct East Deerfield, it would be part of our annual road resurfacing project, which is paid for out of our annual budget. So I think it'd
Okay.
be optimal timing to put the two projects together and get as much as we can out of it.
I mean, this definitely, but we don't need to do it all, right?
It would just
Or-
be the part south of Woodfield Court. So from Woodfield Court, where the motor condos are, to the roundabout at Lineville. North of GAD, where we left off in 2023, would remain, but that would be funded out of our road resurfacing project and then at some point in the future.
So there would still be 300 left, 300,000?
900, he said.
There would be after the 600 and, no, let's say after the 600 spent, yes, roughly 330,000 would be left in that TID.
And that's just at the end of 2026. The TID is open through 2031,
Oh,
well, January 1st
okay.
of 2031. It's just the expenditure period ends 1/1 of '26. So we can, if there's a project under contract, we can still spend that money in '26. But then there's still 5 years of increment going
Okay.
into the TID with limited expenses.
So it'll be probably higher than the 330.
Correct, yeah. There was a cash flow that Andy attached, again, estimating, forecasting out, and the TID is very healthy. And by the end, it's still estimated at about $2 million.
How much construction is going to occur on that new road then?
As far as like development,
Yeah,
there's 3-4 lots available, I think,
Yeah.
after it's constructed, so.
I guess that's unavoidable if we have to spend it at a certain time. I mean, this is a good use of it.
What's the schedule for the resurfacing of that northern portion from GAD?
It's not in our 5-year yet, so it hasn't fell to a point that it's in our 5-year projection.
All
The
right.
south end is definitely in worse condition
Yep.
than the north. Most of the trucking traffic that comes in to help build all those sites, the Woodfield condos, there's a lot of fill and stone and stuff brought in. A lot of that truck traffic comes off of Lineville, so the southern portion's got a few more miles on it, I'd say, than the northern portion.
I mean, do you want to do it all?
I would love to do it all.
Is there enough there to do it? And we're running out of time where we can spend it,
Yeah,
right?
I'd have to check the limits too. I don't know how far that TID goes, if it goes all the way up to Harbor Lights or not. I can't remember.
I'll just say, I drove that stretch today, so that first part wasn't so bad. So if we're talking about the east side where Anapee is, you ever heard of Anapee? But anyway, so the Anapee's right there. That part wasn't so bad. Then I got to the new stuff, like, oh, this is smooth. Then after that, I thought it was worse, actually,
Yeah.
on the north and the south.
There's some bigger seams in the north end. There's more alligatoring on the south end because of the weighted vehicles that have driven on it over the years. The north end's just, it's a tough area to build a road in, especially for a first-time road construction, because it takes, 20, 30 years for things to settle out and shift, and it's a very wet area, so you get a lot of movement with frost. But neither end is great. South end has more alligator cracking though than the north end.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't really criticizing.
I agree,
construction.
both ends should be done. I
was
just didn't want to
suggesting, yeah, kind of
overspend.
supporting the idea of maybe we go even a little bit further if we can, because I did notice it got better.
Yeah,
And I got off that, of course, it could have just been conditioning, because I was driving that nice, smooth blacktop, right? Then you get into that, but it did seem to kind of go away.
once you get through the developed areas and then it's, there's a big area where there's no development on the east side there. It's better through there because it's just less traffic and movement over the years, but we can put an estimate together for the whole thing and see where it comes.
I'm looking at the map here. It seems like it does go all the way to Harbor Lake.
I think it does, it should.
I believe it does, yes.
Another question I have for you, if you're done.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you're looking at pricing something like this, we've got this arrangement with the developer where they're gonna split half of that work. Would you do when you say bid together, is it like you're sending out 2 bids for 2 separate projects that will happen concurrently? Or 1 bid for the whole project where you look for like a deductive alternate or something for the one piece so that
Yeah.
it's clear at the end?
We bid them both out together under one contract and have a part A and a part B.
Okay.
Yep. So
So it's a way to
each
track
part of the project will have its own unit pricing, but usually a lot of your units are the same,
Yeah.
identical in price.
I mean, we are getting to the point where we can't spend that money anymore, right?
Right, we have through this year to have a contract signed to use that money.
So, do as much as you
We can put an estimate
can.
together and see where it falls. I just
Yeah.
didn't think, I didn't want to overspend or overask for something that couldn't happen either. So I was just hopeful to get a half of it done and, but let's put an estimate together and keep talking about it. I'm good with that.
Well, I mean, the folks who are going to be probably most injured, if you want to call it injured, by the extra expenditure. So you got a section of road that isn't on our plan for at least 5 years, but it is damaged. Longer term, if you replace that road, longer term, right, you're actually saving the village and the taxpayers money by using TID
Correct.
dollars to do
Absolutely.
it. What you might get pushback on, I doubt it, but where you might get pushback is what happens, everyone knows what happens, right, to the residual TID funds? 50% of it goes to the school district, a small portion goes back to the village, and then a small portion goes to NWTC. So when we did the review of TIDs 2 weeks ago, it was, shared the closing of this TID and the suspected balance of it, and, an outlay to the school district. Not that they've hired building that in their budget, but, that's maybe something that could be an issue. I tend to agree with Trustee Eckert, Trustee Romas, and the others that, get the whole thing bid out and see where it comes. We should be using this TID money, to benefit the businesses in the area that's there. I think, giving money to the school district is great and also invaluable, but if it's gonna save the taxpayers money to do this road and get 10 years out of it rather than just 5 years, we should definitely do it.
And the more buildings that build there, because maybe they are happier with the road condition, means the tax base increases anyway.
Right.
So at the end of the day,
That's-
it's a crystal ball thing.
Right. Well, it's the whole idea behind, that's why you have this
Right.
idea called the TID district, right? You invest in the TID districts, then more businesses come in and increase the amount of return to the village as a whole.
One thing we'll have to talk about, and maybe I'll just talk with Alex first on it, but so I didn't really push for the north end too, because the sewer ends at Gad, and, it has the potential to go further north, and we wouldn't want to redo that road, this next year, and then in 2 or 3 years, a business or 2 or 3 say, can we have sewer installed? So we'll just have to talk about that before we commit to that north end, but if we feel like it's all developed up there already, everybody's existing, there's really not room for any new development that way until the Davister property would become developed, which, that's the property that the village had and then sold. So that would be the only one that would really push for municipal sewer at some point, and then I'm sure it'll request it, but I think that's probably more than 5 years away.
So you didn't take it past anything that was looking to get the sewer eventually?
Nope, it ends at the north property line of Gad, yeah, Gad.
So at what point, you mean at what point do you do the sewer then? Because I guess I would be hesitant to
Yeah.
pave it if you want the sewer there, because it should be there. That's where you get the quality industrial development,
Yeah.
but,
We're pretty developed all the way up to that Davister property. So until we get it to that point, that's really gonna be our only new, user on that system over there. And we don't have a timeline on anything with that property. I know there was wetland issues and stuff like that they were working through.
so how do you work that then? I mean,
Or can you put the sewer in versus the road? I suppose you can't really do that because you'd still got to do the road.
You'd have to do the road after it. It just makes, so we did that when we extended the sewer from the lift station to the north in 2023. That was all paid for by the TID as well. That was a sewer and road reconstruct.
How far can that sewer go up that road before it needs a lift
It
station?
can only get to about the midway point on that Davister property.
Yeah.
So about where the house was is where maxed out in elevation right there.
Well, the way I look at it is we have an opportunity to get solid pricing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So if we do the whole thing, including the sewer, you would just format it some way where you can pull the project back. I don't know if that ruins the plan.
no, not at all. We have the right to remove anything out of any of our projects. We cut things all the time.
If we're strategic
budget.
about it,
Yep.
we could go. I think, we owe to the district itself. This, if I'm understanding how TIDs work, and I believe I do, we owe this to the TID, because even though we can't do expenditures until or after 2026, that doesn't mean the TID isn't still gaining value. Is that
Right,
correct,
yeah,
Katie?
correct.
Yeah, so I think we need to invest, we need to put it in there, we need to stretch it, get it done, because we owe it to the TID and to the groups that could come there into the village.
But we don't want to rip up a new road to put
We
sewer.
don't want to rip up a new road, right? And that isn't the case, right? Did I understand correctly that the sewer was taken up through the new road distance?
The sewer was, yes.
Yeah, so where I go there, when I drove today and I saw the new
Yep.
blacktop,
Yep.
sewer was to the top of that.
Correct.
blacktop. Okay.
Yep.
So let me understand what's being requested here. Are we requesting that we look for a quote to additionally resurface up, the balance of East Deerfield? Or are we looking for a quote to include sewer and water and resurface?
What I would like, are you asking him or just? any-
So water exists already. We have
I'm
water.
asking what the board is.
Well, that's the hard part. I mean, we don't have enough money in there to do that.
I think we should, there's
We
nothing,
can put an estimate together.
right, we don't have to act on this tonight anyway,
No.
right?
Is there an urgency on this?
Well, we just have to know sooner than later, because if we are going with sewer, we have to get DNR approvals and new water approvals before we can bid that out.
Because that would be the part C.
Yeah.
So part C could also be the thing. So I think it might be helpful if, because obviously we're throwing you a curve tonight, right? To maybe take the time for you to look at it, examine the costs, examine those unintended consequences that might hit us that we haven't thought about tonight. Consider the timeline like you just did and come back maybe next meeting with another idea. Is it fine?
Is that possible, or do we need to approve what's before us and then look for, an additional amendment in the future?
Yeah, I think I'd approve the south portion to kind
Okay.
of commit to that, because we know we're comfortable there, and if we can get everything else
And
in
then come back
time.
with a quote on the sewer?
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely.
That sounds good.
And a large portion of the north section of the road is not gonna have sewer on it. The sewer would end, like I said, about midway at the Davister property, so you still have a good quarter mile or better of existing asphalt that we would still want to replace anyway.
Trustee Andrews has
So-
been patiently waiting.
Director Smith, is there any street lighting that needs to be done for safety issues maybe in that southern area?
We
That would
haven't,
be a way to
yeah,
use up some of the money.
could add some streetlights to it for sure. We could definitely add one at the intersection of Deerfield Court and East Deerfield once that's constructed.
I
We
mean,
have a lot of,
Wherever you feel it's probably needed, I mean, safety related.
I guess maybe we're looking for ways just to spend the rest of it then. Or the best way to spend the rest
Yeah.
of it.
Yeah, best way.
So I
sounds good. We can add some street lighting to it.
Good call.
Yeah.
be happy to offer a
Is
motion.
there anyone else? Otherwise, we'll take a motion. Go ahead, trustee Rose.
I'd like to move that we approve the addition of East Deerfield Avenue resurfacing to TID 1 expenditure in 2026.
Trustee Romas has offered a motion to approve the addition of East Deerfield Avenue resurfacing to the TID 1 expenditure for 2026. Is there a second?
Second,
I have a second from trustee Andrews this evening. Any other further questions or discussion? And this is under the proviso that goes back to staff to look at sewer, water in the north end as well, and lighting. All right, no further discussion, no further questions. All those in favor, let's do a roll call on this one because it is an expenditure.
Trustee Andrews.
aye.
Trustee Eckert.
Aye.
Trustee McKeefery.
Aye.
Trustee Gomez.
Aye.
Trustee Stevens.
Aye.
President Van Rossum.
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0.
Terrific. All right, we are off to item 8, is administrative items. Item 8A this evening is the 2026 Comprehensive Plan Open Discussion. Trustee Stevens.
All right, well, thank you. This is, the intent here is in preparing for the comprehensive plan. Michelle, do you mind just putting up the plan, the 2016 plan? And just as a refresher, that document is 200 pages long. And so there's a lot of inputs that went into that, and many of us didn't participate in that. And so what I wanted to do is, I don't think we're gonna change what Brown County is going to propose. They have a 9-step process in 2016. I'm assuming that they'll still have some formal process that we're gonna go through. But it feels like we could do an awful lot of prep work to be ready for those sessions. And so what I wanted to do is I started to put some thoughts on paper. And I have not spent much time with the planning and zoning, and that's, we're gonna have to talk about, I'm gonna give you this, just pass it down, of what the structure would look like in some of this. And my understanding is that we have one more application that has come in. So how many total applications do we have for people that would like to participate in this process?
We have
These
2
are outs-
residents and 1 non-resident.
A non-resident.
Yes.
I would ask that they all be residents, because I think we pursued this for resident opinion, not
Right,
anybody that exists.
right.
I agree.
So it feels like we're starting to get a few samples of individuals. It feels like we're probably going to want more input into the process rather than just a couple people. And so when I reflect back on the 200-page document, 23 people were involved in that process. And then there was 7 people that were participating as far as the planning and zoning. So there's an awful lot of individuals and input, and my understanding, not all the people came to the meeting, and so it seemed like there was not full participation, of course, then there was the board. And so what I wanted to do is just, again, I want to qualify what I'm put on paper is this isn't intended to change the 9-part process that exists with Brown County. It's really for us to start thinking about what do we need to do to prepare ourselves to be really efficient and effective in that process. And I think it would be helpful if, it's been a few years, if Brown County could maybe refresh all of us as to what process they're using, so we can see what the inputs are, so that when the time comes for those inputs, we've done a little bit more homework than, hey, here's multiple choice, pick one of them. And I sense that some of that, times that could happen, and I don't think we need to do that. And so what I did is in this outline, and again, I'm asking not for answers tonight, but for us to kind of gather our thoughts. And when I looked at the strategic plan or the comprehensive plan, I struggled to find what the first 5-year objectives were and what the 10-year objectives were. And I think this group probably should start to be thinking about what are the objectives for this comprehensive plan? And then what will be the measures of success? What would they look like? And so that's a pretty complicated process to go through to get a consensus or at least support as to what's really important to this village. And my question to the board tonight is where do those strategic objectives come from? Do they come from this board? Or do we allow the process to bubble up and we say these are our objectives? Because there's 2 ways you can kind of look at this thing. Is it a top-down process where we said, hey, these are the objectives we have for the village, and everybody else needs to have inputs to make that happen. So now it's an open discussion. I'm curious as to what, Michelle, you were part of that, Steve, you were part of that process. How did you identify what the strategic objectives were so that all this kind of came together?
That was a while ago.
Well, part of this
It
actually.
was, but I think part of it, a little bit of it came from surveys that we had put out to the village.
Big piece of it, actually.
Yeah, and then there's a part of it too that comes from staff members of what they feel, the direction that we kind of should be looking at. So a little bit of there, a little bit of this, and then probably the third piece was probably the other people that were all on these committees, other than board members. And just, our normal committee members, there were other people. So, little of each, from what I can remember.
I mean, if you treat this as well, you can't make it too complicated, for one thing. But if it's treated as a wish list, and there's just a lot of things we should do, and it's never going to be listened to, it's never going to be used. I I don't know, I would caution against making it too complicated or more complicated than it is.
Well, 200 pages doesn't suggest it was simple.
Honestly,
goal-
if I had my
Yeah.
way, we wouldn't even do this.
Well, I'm not sure
There's
that's
nothing
a
less
strategy.
complicated than that.
Yeah,
So the surveys are important, so,
Right.
you know, and we get, we get feedback on surveys, and any one of us can probably, from the last survey, you know, rattle off, you know, some of the top 5 items,
right.
right? From the survey. So the surveys have a big piece of that. There's also communication that we get. I think all of us recently received a letter from Jordan Kraus, or copied on a letter from Jordan Kraus. No? I received a letter from Jordan Kraus, and I forwarded it to Alex, and it was to be shared with the board. I'll make sure it is shared with the board. Well, I'll follow up with Alex. The letter essentially was an individual who was talking about, you know, and provided a lot of information with the need, the perception of a need for trails, for biking and walking in the village. Maybe you did see it.
It was a while back I saw that one.
Okay, so, you know, that's one element, but we also get, you know, lower taxes, right? We want less expense when it comes to our sewer and water areas, right? You know, the development, which we've been talking about, you know, those are all pieces of it. It's important, you know, why you're thinking it's 200 pages and why it is complex, I think, Michelle, is because there just isn't, you know, unfortunately, it's a comprehensive plan. It's just not one issue. That's the problem, right? So we're trying to, the folks that we're asking to commit from, as citizens, to come to these meetings, we've asked them to be available 12 times for 2 to 3 hours at a time. That's what this plan takes. What we don't want is somebody who's going to come here and come for one single issue, because one single issue is not a comprehensive situation. It's you know, everybody has an issue that's important to them, but there's a comprehensive issue. In the past, these comprehensive plans, so the last piece of this is the committees, right? So Public Works, Park and Rec, Planning and Zoning, they all went through the comprehensive plan and provided feedback that went to the board, and the board made the decision on many of those items. So it was a combination, surveys and the priorities from the committee and priorities from staff, right? We need this piece of equipment, we're gonna need a new water tower, you know, that all feeds into it. Roads, I think that, wasn't it in 2015, the last go-around? Was that when we made the decision to put $100,000 into roads because we've been borrowing, or was it 2000?
Not sure what year.
It was, maybe it wasn't, maybe it was before that.
Yeah.
I think it was
But that was a
before that.
decision that,
I think it was prior to 2015.
prior to 20.
Yeah, I think it was 14.
Okay. But I think that was something that came up as part of the comprehensive plan, that we need to do something about our roads. We're losing ground on our roads. And we want to have a comprehensive plan. We want to have good roads. And that was also in the survey, right? Folks want good roads. So, fire station, EMS support, fire support, those were all elements of the comprehensive plan that came from public health and safety, came from planning and zoning, came from public works, came as part of a survey, right? You know, those are the pieces that come into it. I agree. I agree with Michelle. If there's some way that we can,
You got to stop saying that.
yeah, let's not make a habit, right?
I think
It needs to be less complex. 200 pages is too much.
Well, yeah, I just,
But,
I don't.
but with a lot of areas, you know, Public Works,
You're going to
Park and
have.
Rec, this, that, and the other thing, if you don't have something in there with the comprehensive plan, let's say there's a half-mile section of a trail that if we didn't have it in this plan and we're available for this grant to have it done, well, then we miss on that then, because it's not in our plan.
The elements of the comprehensive plan are intended to hold.
Just an example, trail.
The elements of the comprehensive plan are intended to hold the village governance, hold our feet to the fire to make us accountable. this is what we are, the comprehensive plan, this is what we're committing to based on surveys and feedback and what the needs of the village, this is what we're voting on. So, and you guys know how many times this has come around where somebody has said, hey, you can't do that, that's not what your comprehensive plan says. And we're kind of bound by that comprehensive plan. So there's an well, I say I don't like the complexity, and I agree with the absence, that there's got to be some way to reduce the complexity. At the same time, I think the comprehensive plan is essential because it holds us accountable.
I've read others. I've read other villages, towns, whether it be a town, whether it be a city, whether it be a village, they all say the same crap, quite honestly. I mean, and whoever does these things, they plug in a bunch of blank spaces with a couple different things, but it's all the same government excess. If you think you can get around that, just do it with making it simple, not more complex.
That's probably my concern, is that it feels, and have not been in part of the process, it feels like it was facilitated and it was some multiple choices.
Oh, they all are.
Yeah.
They all
Yeah,
are.
it's a
You read
template.
other towns,
And-
they say the same things.
And I believe we need structure to help us through a process. I'm agreeing with that. But we have the opportunity to identify what's really important to this village. And as a result of that, we can align these investments that we need to make, or changes or improvements that we need to make. And so that, to me, the heaviest lifting of this plan is agreeing on what's the most important pieces.
We're not going to agree, though.
Well, how do you do a plan if you can't have the leadership agree what's important to the village?
I'm not required to agree with you. You're not required to agree with me.
Okay.
That makes
I don't
bad
think
government.
I'm not looking at, but we have to provide structure and direction. So if we're gonna do a comprehensive plan, if this board isn't supporting the general direction, we've got a problem. And so how can we make investments? How can we make decisions if it's not consistent with what we've all agreed is what it's in the best interest of the village? Then to your point, Michelle, if we can't have consensus or support, then I would ask, why do we even have this plan?
Why do we?
I can't I've never been around a business that's been successful.
I don't
that
see the
doesn't have a
need for it.
Okay, we can agree to disagree.
Okay.
And so, but in order, I don't think it's a good representation of the leadership of this village to say it's not necessary to have a vision of what the next 5 to 10 years looks like. I think that would be a slippery slope. And so that's why I was looking for initially is how will we arrive? I think it's easier than you think of what's really important to this village, because the rest of this cascades from it. And then I think there's probably an element that we're gonna ask others to play different roles. And what I see in these types of processes, the difference between who's accountable and who's responsible, who's being communicated and informed. And we have to make sure everybody understands their role in these types of projects, because it gets confusing and you can get poor decisions when people don't understand what that looks like. And so, yes, we're going to ask people from outside this room and the community to give us their thoughts and ideas. That doesn't mean all those thoughts and ideas are gonna happen, but maybe many of them will. We just have to make sure everybody understands. I think to the point, somebody said wish list. You know, I want the wish list, but then we gotta put structure around the wish list of how it lines up. And then we have to make a decision as to who's gonna facilitate this process. We've got Brown County, which they've got, an approach, but are we going to have a separate committee? Or are we gonna ask planning and zoning to do this? And then how are we gonna manage the day-to-day of people getting their inputs into this process? That, to me, those are big change, or those are big decisions that need to be made.
So I think the first thing is, can we refer this back to staff? Can someone with staff confirm with Brown County their process? And can that be shared with the board via email so that we can actually see what that process is? And then, so I think that's the first step. So just one quick note, get rid of comprehensive plan, take that out of here. Let's not call it a comprehensive plan anymore. Let's call it a business plan, because that's really what it is a business plan. And there isn't a business on this earth that doesn't have a business plan for 3, 5, and 10 years. And they go out and they talk to individuals in the marketplace, they bring in folks that they sell to, they bring in folks that they buy from to look at their business plan. They bring in ISO auditors, to look at their compliance with international regulations. So this is really, maybe it's easier to see this as comprehensive is such a nebulous term. Maybe it's easier to see this is the business plan for Suamico, and the stakeholders are the citizens, and the stakeholders are the staff, and the stakeholders are those who have invested themselves in the committee. So maybe the first step is confirm that with Brown County, and then we go back, maybe we align it as trustee Eckert, you're on Public Works. Take it back to Public Works, get it on their agenda, and lead them in a discussion to find out what their priorities are. So from a Public Works perspective, with regard to the Suamico business plan, comprehensive plan, don't make it too complicated. What do you see as the priorities? And we do the same for anybody who sits on Planning and Zoning, Historical Society, Health and Safety, Park and Rec. And maybe that's the starting place to understand from those committees what those priorities are, and then to get those on a map, right? So we can see by committee, here are the priorities that we've been told. And then you got to bounce that against what the community wants, right? We all know the story of the splash pad. That was, somebody brought that up from Park and Rec 10 years ago, that, we need a splash tip. Well, that wasn't a priority for the community, and probably still.
Well, the water customers didn't need to pay for that,
Right.
but apparently some people think they do.
So, well, no, it's,
There-
I got a problem with
I'm
that.
just using that as an example that never took place. And then as an example also that never took place from a Park and Rec standpoint, as long
That's
as
what, we got somebody good.
I've been
He-
here since
he didn't say that.
2010.
I keep the purse real tight.
So there's a process that I've been accustomed to, and maybe some others in the room, is called the affinity process. And the affinity process is do exactly what you just said. You tell me the people that you want to go out and ask what they think's important. What's their priorities? And put them on index cards. And bring those index cards back to me, and I'll put them on the wall, and there'll be 200, 250 cards on the wall, maybe more, maybe 300. And very quickly, we can align those into themes. And and you'll be surprised that 250 cards are probably 10 themes. It happens all the time. And so this is where we can take the noise. Noise isn't the right word.
Complexity.
A lot of perspectives and a lot of people's way of communicating something. So I think a great starting point would be is to do exactly what you said, is let's get those ideas on paper. And then as a board, we can say, oh, this is what people are telling us. And then we go to the community and do maybe surveys. But at least we got some starting point as to what's important to the people that work here and the people that live here and the businesses that are here.
Does anyone recall when was the last survey that we did in the village?
Yeah,
It was really long.
2023.
Was it 2023?
Oh.
So maybe that's recent enough where we
I
can use
forwarded
that
it to
data,
you, I think, just so you know.
It's a good starting point.
rather
Well,
than
that data.
paying for another survey.
Sure, you can look at it.
If I may, so I put that survey, the Chat GPT, I was about to say GTP. And it's actually kind of neat because you can use that tool now. And you can ask the Chat GPT questions about the survey, like, what are the 5 biggest concerns of the people in Suamico? And it'll go through and it'll spit out all, now I know the warnings on Chat GPT, just because it says it so, don't make it so. So don't take it that way, but like I mentioned last week in our conversation, we have a general conflict. It's like the people of Suamico love and want the rural feel. But they also want lower taxes. So I don't know what it takes to put a survey out, but it might be interesting just to narrow the survey down to a few choices, like, would you prefer to lose some rural appeal for lower taxes, or that kind of a thing, you know? Ask more directed questions. One thing I will say, I love ideas, love new ways of approaching things, I'm all in. But as I'll just say, as a government entity, we will disagree on things all the time. And that's normal, because if you go out into the village, the people in the village are gonna be disagreeing with things all the time. One thing that always makes me nervous is when there's a feeling that we have to act as one. And I don't agree with that.
Thank you.
Because I think
Yes.
what that does is that, well, I think that shares to the village that the board is pretty much gonna do what they want, no matter what we think. That's my concern on that. Just so you know, that's just my mindset.
Yeah,
It's more of a
I-
government, more of a mind, like a government board mentality than a business. Like, if it's a business and one of the 7 here is out there towing a different line than we decided at the board, that's different. That person's accountable now to the board because they didn't carry through execute the plan. But here, we may have a fair and honest disagreement on something, and we may never see eye to eye on it, and that's okay. Because you are representing what you believe the constituents want, and I represent what I believe, and I may lose every one of those, or I win every one, or in between, it doesn't really matter, because the board as a whole, the 7 of us, should be able to reflect the village.
So the question I have then is, I'm totally right there with you. I'm
Yeah.
agreeing that. But when that comprehensive plan is done, is this group going to vote on whether they want that plan or not?
Yes.
Yeah.
I voted against it
And-
last time.
Okay,
And-
okay, all right, good to know.
Right, there will be parts, like I can look at a plan, okay? You got, I'll say, we may have everything right here, but you still won't let me have golf carts in Suamico, right? And I'll still vote for the plan.
Right.
But every single time we talk about golf carts, I'll be saying, we should have golf carts in Suamico, and it might drive you crazy, but that's still my opinion, right? That's an example of where, yes, the plan as a whole is a good plan, but I'm gonna
Yep, yep.
maybe push back on pieces of it
Right.
because I talk to constituents and they feel a certain way and they feel strongly a certain way, and I can't believe that just the cross-section. So then what you do is you go into the survey and you use your chat GPT and you ask the survey the question and find out that the people in the survey are pretty much reflecting what the people that you talk to think. You know, so then that gives me some comfort in the chat
Right.
GPT side.
I guess the perspective that I have is I'm hopeful that when we get to the point where the comprehensive plan is presented to this board, that we may not like portions of it, but it would be, to me, a failure if we didn't have 100% support. And so that's, to me, why we have to go through this, to hear these perspectives and everybody to get comfortable with, this is in the best interest of a diverse population and the people who elected us.
If we end up agreeing with that.
Right.
Right. And that's where I just want you to feel, I guess I'm asking that you feel comfort with the fact that although I like the new approach, I like the different approach, I think that's a good thing, because anytime we move away from a template, I think it's healthy. But that in and of itself, in a sense, is sort of going against their system, right? But there will be things that well, there may be things, and I'm not gonna say will, it's very possible that the comprehensive plan reflects exactly everything that I believe Suamico needs. But you may disagree with a couple items. So I wouldn't expect you in a meeting where we're deciding one of those things that's actually an issue in front of the board. I wouldn't expect you just to go, well, it's in the comprehensive plan, I don't like that.
Oh,
but
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I would not expect that of you.
No, I agree.
So the one thing that's, I think, missing here, and I'm kind of picking it up from you, that's the part that we're kind of looking for some feedback on, is the project manager role,
Yeah.
so to speak. In my experience professionally, there's always some sort of a consulting firm or, you know, a project management team put together, and there's a hierarchy within that. Obviously, those cost money, and we wouldn't want to be putting out those types of funds if we don't need it. But I do think that we do need to have a lead, and maybe that person's already been identified, and I'm just not familiar with the process. But it seems to me like we need someone who is the leader, and then whoever is like the officers on that team, so to speak, and maybe we approach it from, I mean, like, I like your comments in here, where you're pulling in each of the departments, and like, President Van Rosser mentioned too, bringing in the public health and safety and public works, park and rec, and have them put their thoughts and goals towards this comprehensive planning board, but that leader would be that person that was the go-to. And that's, I think, where maybe what you're looking for is something along those lines. And we know that obviously, like, the surveys, 2023 surveys, are fairly recent. We could probably leverage that pretty extensively and avoid. But having the business owners, you know, the school district does, the linkage, maybe if we did something with the business owners in the linkage format, to be sure that we're touching all of our bases here. I think this is a solid outline just to give us direction, but I think it's that who's in charge. And then my other question is, would we be, as a board, reviewing and voting on aspects of the plan as it's being developed? Or is it, this goes out, the group handles it, and then its entirety comes in front of the board and we vote on it?
I think if I had my way on that one, I would just provide an opinion as for each item. Like, so say for instance, if the project manager is John Doe comes in and says, hey, this is the plan, I may go, that's a great idea, and I'm not really a fan of it, this is why. And then maybe that feedback goes to the committee, for the committee to work out, and then they bring it back. That way, we don't run into a situation with the committee working really hard, doing their thing and kind of in a silo, then coming back and having, you know, us look at them and go, whoa, what? You know, right, but I don't want that to be like something that coerces or controls, right, the committee. I don't want it to be like, oh, a village board member said this, so let's do it that. I don't want that to happen. I want them to be more independent, more like blah, blah, blah.
The
You get
project
idea.
manager concept I'm referring to is somebody who does not have any position necessarily or opinion. They're simply there to be sure that the project stays on task, the timelines are being met, and that everyone is contributing, right?
Yeah, I was just answering the part when you're like, what, you know, how I would look at it as whether the board would vote on it as they come in. Like, as a
yeah.
piece comes in, I don't want to vote on something and send that to the committee and then go, like, I guess that's resolved.
Oh, I see
You know
what
what I
you
mean?
mean.
I don't want that.
Well, I mean, we have representation from each one of us on a committee, right? So as board members, we would take the lead in working with our individual committees that we sit on to find out what their priorities are and get those back and then come here and present those to the board. So the board's going to have an idea of what the priorities from the individual committees are. Staff will have to provide that as well, and we'll get a good sense for it in budget, right? When we sit down, we spend all day with the budget and staff reports to us. You know, the questions, that comes up in October, right? So we'll be asking the questions of staff, you know, what are your long range? The piece that we need to get in here, and we don't have very good representation, is community representation. We have 2 individuals. That's not very, and we have a survey from 2023. That's what we have to work with. And we can open it up to public hearings and have lots of public representation. You look quizzical at something.
Oh, no, it just occurred to me, was the reason we had the listening sessions back, God knows how long ago, that went for like, I don't know, maybe 6 months or whatever? I looked back in the archives of the village for something at one point, and there were these listening sessions that board members were doing.
We had them on a
Was that-
regular basis.
Was that for the comprehensive?
no,
Okay,
it was a
all right.
Nobody
regular
showed
basis.
up.
Okay, that was my inquisitive look. I was looking for a
Yeah.
little
Yeah.
history lesson.
But I think we'll have, so when, you know, when the comprehensive plan, so as an example, Public Health and Safety is going to be presenting on their vision for the comprehensive plan to the village board on this date. And that's a public meeting, right? And it's announced, Public Health and Safety is going to be talking about, their needs for law enforcement, fire, et cetera, et cetera. We juxtapose that, bounce that against the survey. Are people telling us that they want more police support, more police coverage, more fire coverage? Staff comes in and says, we need fire protection at a certain level to keep insurance low for our citizens, right? That's also a factor. So all of these pieces come together. All of these pieces then come together as an element in a comprehensive plan that says fire protection is a priority in the village of Suamico. And here's how we're going to maintain that. We're going to make a commitment that we're going to add 2 firefighters. I'm just making this up off my top of my head. We're going to add firefighters every 2 years or something like that. That's an example of how I think all of those elements come together. Does that make sense?
It does. And I think we
Is
can
it-
do a better job.
Does
Following
that jog your memory from the last 2015?
To me, it does.
It just, yeah, but are you going to rewrite this, or are you going to get somebody that does this? I mean, if you all feel like we have to do this, I'd just as soon you just get somebody in, we plug it in and be done with it. I don't see a need for it, but I'm going to be the only one that says it.
Well, no, so that you're talking about, is that the comprehensive plan? You don't see any-
The comprehensive plan, are you going to waste a whole lifetime getting this done?
It's a good
Or are you
question.
just going to get somebody in and plug it in like everybody else does?
Our
I
comprehensive-
don't see a need for it.
I'm good. Our comprehensive plan's mandatory.
Probably,
I think so.
yeah.
Yeah, maybe we should find that out, because and what I like about this, what I like about the idea of it coming from a different path, right, it's like it's been pointed out, this is a template. And what happens is templates end up getting driven by the options that you want to put into a template. Even if we all, as a group, with all our committees or whatever, at least had like an executive summary of it or something of that nature that took into account and made it take this 200-plus page plan and make it, these are our top priorities. These are the top 5, the top 10 that we've identified. And I may be in a disagreement with all 10 of them. And every time we come down to a meeting, I may say no. But as a group, if we decide that those are the top 10, along with the citizen committee, then maybe we take what is a long, exhaustive, template-filled plan and make it useful. That's my only thoughts on it,
Our directions are so different that I don't know.
Yeah.
Michelle, what do you mean by our directions are so different?
I just like to keep things simple. And everybody else likes to spend, spend, spend. I don't see where we're going to come together on this.
That might be a good priority.
Spend less?
Spend less.
Never happened.
Well, you said it, right? And it could, why not? Why couldn't it come out of that?
I don't understand. Well, we'll disagree, I guess, on that, Michelle, because I don't understand. You bring up these giant things. You say, spend, spend, spend. You throw out this stuff, and there's nothing, I don't know.
Trails and sidewalks and bike lanes.
When did
and
we buy bike lanes? When did we buy sidewalks?
I mean,
What-
you guys
Where
are
are
always
they?
talking about this.
We don't
And-
have any bike lanes. We don't have any trails. Yes, we've been talking about it. We've been talking about it since 2010. We've had it in comprehensive plans since 2010, and we haven't had the budget to spend it, right?
Yeah, and I just
So we didn't spend,
wouldn't
spend, spend.
agree with a
We didn't spend,
document
spend,
like that.
spend. This
With
is-
the exception of the Lineville Road improvement that there's sidewalks, trail. There's a trail there now at least, going across from
And I was
North
good
Shore
with that.
Bank.
I was good with
you know,
that. There should
going all
be.
that there. But it was in our plan.
Yeah.
So it
There's a
came-
lot of
it
things
came
in the
time
plan.
to do it.
That
They
And if
never
it
have.
were
wasn't-
never
If
realistic.
it wasn't in our plan, they might have we're on the hook for paying for all of it. So it was a shared cost.
what I'm kind of hearing, and I could be wrong, feel free from those of you on the board who's been here longer than I, which is pretty good. The comprehensive plan is almost, yes, it's a thing we're supposed to be accountable to, but it's not something that we really feel that we've, I don't know, I guess, truly created as part of like a Suamico team. That's the feeling I'm getting. It's like, yeah, we have this plan, it's there. I've heard several examples of things that are in the plan that never get done. So that's what I like about the idea. I don't know about the details, right? I don't care about the details. Maybe I should, but I don't. The idea of approaching this differently, to me, is what I like. Because we may end up developing a better process to get a comprehensive plan that addresses issues. Like, yeah, trails are good for a certain percentage of the community, but they also cost money for the entire community. So although trails are a priority, they're a low priority. They come out of that plan, right? So instead of filling in the template, which talks about, oh, we gotta have trails, we be real honest and transparent with the people in Suamico saying, this is the conclusion we came to. So,
And we have that.
yeah.
We have priority list, you know, kind of rated as the highest needs, and then medium and low, but, you know, over 3 years from now, some of those
You
might
never know what happens.
switch around.
Yeah.
I see two items at the forefront right now. Number one is confirm with Brown County what their process is. These two are at the top of the list, and they're not number one. Is a comprehensive plan mandatory? Let's make sure it's mandatory, right?
Yeah.
So that's the first thing. You know, Trustee Eckert has voiced the opinion that it's really kind of useless and it's kind of, you know, pointless. And to some degree,
Well, I
I'm
think
gonna
it,
agree
I
with
think it is,
I think it
but
is.
Agree with her.
it may be required. I mean,
it may be required.
it is required for certain things.
But our comprehensive plan, for as long as I've been here, has, I'm not going to say it hasn't been very effective in many ways, because,
It's a wish list.
well, I mean, whatever comprehensive plan we had in 2015 with regard to building sure didn't work out very well for Suamico, did it? It's, you know,
No.
So, you know, that didn't work out very well. There's a lot of examples. So anyway, number one, mandatory, yes or no? Number two, let's confirm with Brown County what the process is. If it's mandatory and we have the process from Brown County, then my thought in terms of the next goal is us, as leaders in the community and board members, take back to our committees 3 things that we want from them. Tell us what your long-term objectives are, 5+ years, I'm taking this from your list. Number 2, near-term objectives, 1 to 5 years, public works. What do you see that this village needs 1 to 5 years? And 3, public works, what are the restrictions to those things happening? Those are the 3 questions for a public works meeting, a planning and zoning meeting, a public health and safety meeting, park and rec meeting. Now, we can come back to that, put that in a list and say, 1 to 5 year goals for park and rec, 10-year goals, park and rec, restrictions on those goals, and the same with public works. Now we've got something to work on as far as a comprehensive plan. And then we again, the board, we have to sift through that with staff and their input in public hearings, right, with the community to say, here's what our committee members are telling us. What do you think? And I know this isn't doing a very good job at not being complex. I don't know any way around it right now. I'm open to any ideas. I would like to see it less complex. I don't know how to get there.
A complex process can sometimes deliver a simplified solution.
There you go.
The complexity of what we do, I've said this for years, the complexity of what we do is keeping it simple. So let's not lose, this is complex. It will be complex, but it's our role to keep it simple. And it starts with communication. So, I mean, I will be happy to grab all these ideas and thoughts that come from all the different departments, and I will demonstrate in front of you what an affinity process looks like. It's amazing how you can take 250, whatever the ideas are, and develop, and you can participate in developing the themes.
So do you need the feedback from the individual committees first to do that?
I think this is a bottom-up. That's what I'm
I
hearing.
think the only thing you have to find out first is, it says there, no comprehensive plan is not mandatory for all communities in Wisconsin, but is required for every community that wants to exercise certain land use powers, blah, blah, blah. I think you have to decide if you need it and why you need it before you do anything. If you must
And I
really
just-
go
I just
through
wanted to
this.
point out that the mandatory update, if a community does have a comprehensive plan, it must be reviewed and updated at least every 10 years according to Wisconsin statutes.
There
And
you
that would
go.
be 62 point, it was 62 point,
So I think the question still stands, though, are we required to have a comprehensive plan?
Well, we have one, so I guess yes, but,
What if we don't want one anymore?
okay, what if the powers that be that say, because we had one, that we have to have another one, say, well, people doing it, they don't count.
So here's the example.
You
It's,
can't tell me.
it says you
Government
don't
doesn't
have
do
to
that.
have one, but if it's older than 10 years, example here, we're out of compliance, past 10 years. Lineville Road construction goes through. We're not getting the Brown County portion of help in it. We're not getting the Howard portion of help. We're out of compliance. We didn't keep up with our plan.
But that's a very good example. I'm glad you brought that up. I didn't think of that. The Lineville Road expansion was
Yeah.
part of the comprehensive plan.
Yeah.
The redo of VELP was part of the comprehensive plan, the previous comprehensive plan. So the comprehensive plans have not been complete failures by any means, but they did, being in 2015, we started looking at what's it going to take, how much is it going to cost to expand Lineville, and why are we going to, and when are we going to do it?
So the 2 county roads?
There's 4 county roads, or 5. There's 5.
VELP is a county road.
And IR, and
Yeah.
Anyway, you also, back on that webpage, you stopped reading, but it did say that it's not required unless you do zoning.
Which we do zoning. I feel like it is required for any land division aspect, any long-term land use planning, which we are currently doing, talking about lot sizes and all that, R1, 2, and 3. I feel like it's a needed and required tool to have here for the village.
yeah.
I'm sure that's why there has been one in the past, and that's why it's mandatory that we update it.
Yeah, I don't think we would want to go through this. This is very reminiscent of discussions in 2015 and 2010. We don't want to do this.
so Brown County helps us with it in the past. Who do you propose now?
Brown County.
Oh, you think it should still go with
They're-
Brown County?
They have a process.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it, I looked at the process. It was.
Then why are we talking about this? Then why
Because
don't we
what-
just do it?
Because what we're doing is we're preparing to not be part of a template. What we're doing is we're preparing our inputs, because it's an input and an output. All they're doing is they're giving you a template that creates an output. We are gonna provide inputs that said, this is how we want this to turn out. And we're gonna do it from the bottom up. We're gonna do it from the people that work in this village, the people that live here, and anybody else that wants to participate, that's a resident, that is gonna be, well, I shouldn't say, if you work here, you can be part of this, but, so, I guess, I don't see any problem with the template or the process that the Brown County's provided. I'm just pushing back on how do we give them really rich input? And, I like what I'm hearing about the bottom-up, idea of listening to others and coming up with what their thoughts and ideas, so we can establish some goals and objectives and let the plan kind of unfold, because how long did it take you to do that plan? I mean, how long was Brown County's bid is like 20 hours, right? 20, 25 hours? So we're gonna develop a 5 and a 10-year plan by somebody coming in here for 10 hours?
No, they're
That's
just,
crazy.
We provided all the work ahead of time.
Yeah.
And then they come in and we give them the info.
they did exactly what Michelle did. They plugged it into their template. We provided the information, they plugged it in their template. And that's why they all look similar, right? It's the same template, whether it's Lawrence, Hobart, you name it, any community in De Pere. But the inputs are different, right? You know, we still have
Little
the
bit.
rural, rural flavor, rural sense of whatever in 2015. You know, that didn't exist in other places.
So I think to start with, because trustee McKeefery and trustee Stevens are newer board members, Michelle, could you maybe get a copy of the 23 survey that went out so that they have that information to look at? And
Just send
then,
it to us all.
Yeah, send it to us all.
yeah, I mean, I might have it,
Yeah.
but I'd have to dig through some papers. So maybe we just get it for everybody. And we start there with these was questions put out to the residents. And, you know, so you can kind of see what they were like. And yes, they want the rural feel, but they also want businesses.
I know.
Restaurants,
No, I get the
shops,
conflict
this,
for sure.
that. I
That's-
mean, so part of this plan also is how do we continue to give a tool to help them be successful so they stay here too.
Yeah.
What if we started with the original, our comprehensive plan that we have now? And we kind of go through, trim the fat. If something was a goal that was accomplished, you know, what's remaining and what we've got left over from the previous plan, we, in planning and zoning maybe as a group, can review and say, okay, we need to look into this to see if this should continue onto our new plan. You know, so we're not reinventing the wheel to a certain degree, and then weigh it up against the survey results you're talking about from 23, and then get the feedback from each of the committees as well, get that over.
So basically, check off the list. This got done, this got done, this got done.
Can we do that at the committee level? Can we have that done at the committee level?
Yeah, that would make sense.
So two things, maybe, if the board is in agreement on this. Could we get on the next agenda for the committee meetings in preparation for the comprehensive plan, a review of the previous comprehensive plan goals associated to their committee, and then have them start looking at the three examples that we talked about, which is the 5-year plus, the 1 to 5 year, and the restrictions on those things. So the board assigning back to the committees those 4 things. Review the goals from 2015, met or not met, important or not important anymore, and then the 3 items I mentioned. Does that make sense as a starting point?
Yes.
I think so.
So,
Lets us know what got done.
so for
A
example,
bunch of historic preservation.
so for example, planning and zoning meets, we didn't meet this month, we're gonna meet next month. One of the line items on there will be to sit down and go over the comprehensive plan goals from 2015, decide what was valid and not valid anymore, and then what do we see as important going forward? That's a lot to ask in one meeting, and maybe it'll take 2, but at least it's a start, right?
Yeah.
And then the other piece is to confirm Brown County's process, or do we know Brown County's process?
And then when they're gonna, actually, we need to get on there.
Let's confirm Brown County's. So to me, that's and then if that comes back and, you know, if you're on Public Works, or if you're on Public Health and Safety, or Park and Rec, that's gonna be the opportunity for you to say, hey, this is too complex, trim it down a little bit. You gotta realize, we had 200 pages, we don't want 200 pages. We want good, solid data and information to lead Brown County down the road, but we don't want a lot of hyperbole.
Keep it simple on our end.
Yeah, that's not, it's like infinity, but that's the
Right.
the KISS system.
Trim the fat.
So the other, maybe this isn't for this evening, but what are our thoughts relative to this project management? I mean, this is, are we going to do we want to assign somebody who's already here? Do we want to look on the outside to do this?
I thought it was the village administrator's responsibility.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Definitely.
I think that's clearly,
Yep.
and the raw data
Yeah.
should be,
what happened.
should be available to the.
Well, the village administrator's got to walk us through this, and if he
11 and a
decides
whole
that it's too much for him, and if he decides it's too much for him, and he needs to get a project manager, then we're just going to have to look at how we pay for that project manager
Might can be.
with the village administrator's salary.
Let the notes reflect.
For the record, I did not support
Oh.
this. I want Alex on my,
Yeah,
that's okay.
but as we know.
I'm kidding.
Some of us that have been on here, these.
He should have been here.
When you
He should have
hire
been here
out
to defend
for
himself.
Michelle's writing it down.
consultants and that, it gets very expensive.
It does, but let's get the village administrator's input on this. In the past, it's been the village administrator who I thought has, taken us down this road of, the comprehensive plan. If that's not the case or not the methodology that we would like to see taken, we need to let them know, and then we need to be prepared to pay.
Well, also, in that same vein, the village administrator is able to email everybody on the board without creating a walking quorum.
That is true.
Without what, I'm sorry?
Walking quorum,
Oh,
So, yeah.
which is a good point.
Good point.
Yeah.
And then
Okay.
the second piece of that, there was a healthy discussion around, do we form a committee that's part of this, or are we asking planning and zoning to do this?
I thought we decided committee.
And so then the committee, is represented by,
Well, I could be wrong. Did we not?
I don't think,
decide
I
citizen
wasn't,
committee?
I didn't understand we picked it, we talked
Okay, I
about
could
it.
be, I could be wrong. Yeah, I thought we decided a citizen committee, and that's why we were asking for people to submit.
Well, they were another piece of the puzzle.
Right.
They're-
Okay,
they're-
so you're talking about a different thing than the citizen
No, the citizens are part of it in conjunction with planning and zoning.
as a subcommittee. I see.
Right.
Okay.
Well, they're part of the, so the way it was discussed is planning and zoning is going to have a line item that's going to say comprehensive plan discussion, item number 3. The citizen representation will be here and will be part of that discussion, and then, voting on decisions that are
Yeah,
made.
as a voting subcommittee.
Right, as
Yeah.
a voting subcommittee, so a recommendation to the board could be, there's 7 planning and zoning folks, let's say there's 2, on the committee, so there's a possibility of 9 votes there. So the recommendation from the comprehensive plan committee, including planning and zoning and citizen representation, is 3, 4, or 5, or whatever it is. That's how I thought it was gonna work, is that right? Or did somebody see it differently?
Possibly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's not enough citizens to form a new committee, is there?
Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
there isn't.
that's- What have we gotten, like 3 people and one's not a Suamico resident?
Correct.
And it's got to be a resident.
I think so too.
Well, we've got 2 representatives right now from the community, so.
Hmm.
And we may get more, right? So all of this stuff is part of a public hearing, so there may be somebody who comes to the planning and zoning to discuss the activity that came from, or the recommendations that came from public health and safety, and they may decide that they want to be part of the committee, and they could come back. The thing about a committee and having just 2 folks who are filling out applications, we know that those are the most interested individuals,
Mhm.
right? But it's open to everybody.
It is open.
Anybody in the community can walk in
And
and,
it's been on our webpage. It's been
It's a start.
prominent on the webpage. It's like, you go there, there's a separate little
It's
thing.
on the front door.
so is that enough on this? Is that the segue into our next item?
Yeah.
I think we got a
I
good start.
think so.
Do we?
wanna
So,
make This
Appreciate
is
the
a
input.
agenda item in the
staff, do you
future?
feel like you have enough from all of this back and forth to take back?
Yes, sir.
Okay, everybody on the board comfortable with this so far?
Yep.
Yes.
At least as a starting point? All right, well, then we accomplished something this evening. That's not bad. Okay,
So I'm gonna make this one really short. I'm gonna limit my time to 5 minutes. So, going through the survey that was sent out in 2023, most people get their news from the village website. So well done, village, on the website. So when this thing came up last week about the open, or the public hearing, I had simply asked where was it published, and it was published in the newspaper, which is what is as I understand, the minimum statutory requirement for the newspaper. Looking at the survey, understanding that not everybody reads the newspaper anymore, because, 2025. What I thought would be good is if it was a public notice, that when it was delivered to the newspaper on that deadline, it's also posted up on our website, just like that little box that said, you know, looking for the comprehensive. Because I feel like we have the tools, why don't we use them? And then what that does also is it really, it offers more transparency. That's the reality of it.
Sounds good.
That's great.
So rephrase for me, you want to see a box on the website that says public?
Oh, okay, we'll get down to the nitty gritty. Could you bring up the Suamico webpage, please?
So I wasn't rushing you, but you
No, no,
said
no.
you were only giving yourself 5 minutes.
I'm
I'll yield back the time.
scarring. Okay, no, if you go to the homepage, go to home. Is that home?
Just
No,
click
it's,
on
it's
Suamico.
community
Yeah.
development.
Suamico.org. Just
Just
go to
click
that.
on the Village of Suamico logo, it should bring you,
Right there.
yeah.
There we go.
See, there's this really cool thing in the lower right-hand corner
Mm-hmm.
that, you know, as a person who's looking at a web page, that might be the first thing you look at or notice. My point is that when we do a public notice, that instead of, well, not instead of, in addition to, thank you, to putting in the newspaper, that we also simply do this.
That's great, yeah.
It seems simple.
Who puts it in?
Alex,
Oh,
I think Alex does the web page updates, right?
Holly and
Holly?
Emily also.
Holly and Emily also, awesome.
We
Okay.
could put it on our
Nice.
Facebook page as well, couldn't we?
We could, but at
Just
a minimum,
The
yep.
goal, to get as much traffic as possible, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Oh, no, you're fine. You're fine. That's a good point. I
Probably
mean,
in their box though.
why not put it on the Facebook page too? I just, what I did, I looked at the survey, and the survey said they look at the webpage like 3 to 1 or something like that.
Yeah.
So do we need a motion on this, or is this referred back to staff? Are you okay with it being referred?
maybe refer it back because they need to, we need to see how much that entails and what's usually there other than that. Because if we put a bunch of boxes pretty soon,
Yeah. right.
they're not gonna
It'll look
mean
like Hollywood
anything.
Squares.
No, and I think it should go back to staff, not only, you know, for many reasons, but to knock down the law of unintended consequences. Might seem like a logical thing. Well, of course, put it on the webpage too.
But
They may
And
find
then-
out that,
there's something.
And then also so if it's put on there at the date that it's in the paper, so when is it going to be removed? After we have the meeting?
I think that'd be a great idea.
You know, because
Yep. Yeah,
they don't want to keep that cluttered
Oh,
either.
no, no, yeah, it
So
goes down,
after
Yep.
that meeting, then it can be removed.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's only for the stuff that requires public. So like there's some things in here where, well, I guess it's amend village budget. Notice required, none. I mean, we don't need to put that on there. Just when it's required to be public notice.
Okay,
Then there's a bunch of question marks here in our policy, so he might want us to figure out the subdivision plat amendment and the comprehensive plan amendments too. at some
it's not on the agenda tonight.
I think you put the whole policy on the agenda, but I will see the rest of my time as a refer to staff.
Okay, so we've got that referred back to staff to come back to us and let us know if that's possible. Okay? Anyone with item number 9, discussion on future agenda items?
I liked item A today. I know it was sticky sometimes, but I think it's a healthy conversation.
Which one?
Item 8A. I wouldn't mind continuing that with trustee Stevens leading it.
Okay.
Unless
Appreciate the
you'd rather not.
delegation. I'll be happy.
Well, we'll have an update from staff in terms of the process going forward in the next meeting.
I just have a question, and this is really what happened in our last meeting, is I had asked, that was a pretty important vote that we all went through. And I had asked Alex, this public notice that went out, we have 2 board members that aren't going to be there, and it's a holiday weekend.
Yeah, that was,
And I questioned it. And in the response I got, just for clarification, he said it was more detrimental to undo a public notice. And so then when the 2 of you showed up, I was more comfortable that we had representation. But I guess I didn't understand, kind of the pushback on the agenda. And then, to me, in the future, if we have those types of, what I'll say, kind of critical decisions, I would encourage us to make sure everybody's here when we go through those decisions. And then more importantly, is we just make sure we don't bump into public notices that could make it difficult for people to show up to participate. Because it was a holiday weekend, or holiday week.
Day after holiday week.
Yeah, so I guess that was, I guess I would just ask that, maybe in the future, that we be a little bit more tuned into that kind of stuff.
Okay. Any other items? Anyone? Okay. Hearing none. We
Can I
would,
offer a motion?
yes, please.
I'd like to move that we adjourn this evening's meeting.
So we've got a motion from trustee Romus to adjourn the evening's meeting. Is there a second?
I'll second.
We got a second from trustee McKeefery. Any other further discussion or questions on this? No? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Thank you all.
Now at the meeting.